I did agree to the interview. So she said, if you're going to interview me, I'm going to interview you. And so she's got her own list of questions here. Hopefully it won't go 3 hours because I see a lot of paper. But so Karlene is going to ask me questions about me. So this is kind of weird for me. There's not too many people that have a show and are interviewed about themselves on their own show.
Well, that's because I don't have my own podcast.
Well, maybe you will in the future. You know, the Fine Art Podcast. I can see this happening, you know. So
Bruce, thank you so much for letting me do this.
You're welcome. This is fun.
Yeah. So
I think. I haven't answered the question yet.
So we're going to delve right in, and let's start at the very beginning.
Oh, I was born.
Wait, you were born in Guyana?
No, I was born here. My parents are from Guyana.
Okay.
So yeah, so they came over the year before I was born. So I have one brother, and my brother and I are both born in Canada. So I was born in '63. You guys do the math.
Okay.
I'm over 50.
You don't look a day older.
Oh yeah.
So, but I heard you mentioned your grandpa. So, would you say that because you were born here, you lived here most part of?
I've lived here my whole life. Yeah.
So, did you have much association to do, with your family that was back in Guyana?
Yeah, I mean, Guyana. Most of Guyana seemed to leave in '62. A lot of the Caribbean transferred up to Canada. So a lot of my parents' friends and my aunts and uncles all came to Canada.
Okay.
So my dad's side, pretty well everybody came. On my mom's side, a lot of them came to Canada. Some of them stayed in the United States, some in England. But everybody basically got out of Guyana with the exception of my grandparents. Okay. And they came up a lot.
Right.
My grandfather is a famous poet, A.J. Seymour.
Right.
And
ask you about that.
yeah, and he used to teach at the University of Waterloo. Way before I knew that, but he's a poet, so a lot of his work, I sell his work off of my website. So he was in Guyana. They used to come up a lot. My mom worked for the airline, so they were able to come up quite a bit. So yeah, I don't feel we didn't see them as much as I would have liked to, but I have a strong connection with them. I don't feel that I missed my grandparents because of the distance.
Right. So you said that your mom's side there were a lot of writers, and your dad's side was a lot of artists.
That's right.
So do you feel that they had any kind of influence on?
They've had all the influence. I keep telling people, I'm in the middle, and I'm self-taught. I have no idea how I got all of this talent. If you want to call it talent, I'll let you be the judge of that. But yes, I like to write and I like to do art. And on my dad, a lot of his brothers and sisters, sisters. My dad had sisters. His brother, he had one brother, but I don't think he did art. And then on my mom's side, there's quite a few writers in the family. And so I'm in the middle. I don't care how I get the talent. I'm willing to, I give it to them. They're the ones who gave it to me. I don't think I got it on my own.
Right, so you're talking about genetics, but I'm also talking about, did you spend time with them as a little boy? Like, did Aunt show you how to draw something?
No.
Or did they read to you, tell you how to construct sentences?
No, none of that. So I didn't even know I liked to write until I was 40 years old.
Okay.
So my grandfather used to write. I knew he was a poet. His poems are older poems that are not poems I really understand. Okay. Like, they're not the rhyme poems of, they're deep poems, on love and all this. And I even now I read them and I don't understand them. They're a lot about the way life was back then. So unless you've lived that, they're hard to understand. Right. But I do feel that I've gotten that influence because when I went back to school to get my grade 12 when I was 40 and I went through a creative writing class, he said, try and write a poem. That was the first poem I ever wrote. And now I write blogs, I have books, everything.
Right. Would you like to recite that poem?
No, because I don't even remember what it is. I'm sure I've got it somewhere, but I haven't.
Okay.
But we'll
put a link to that.
If I can find it, I will. I
will. Good. So at age 17, you left school. Can you tell us what happened there? Were you kicked out of school or what?
I wasn't kicked out of school. I just wasn't going, and it seemed to do. My parents brought me up with a very strong work ethic. Good. I've always had jobs after school. We were not given money easily. Right. Since 12, I had paper routes and all that stuff. So my parents were very supportive in that, but you had to work for your dollar. I just didn't like school. I thought I was. I failed grade 4. What do you do when you fail grade 4? What do you fail? Like, there's only coloring in the lines. I colored outside the lines. I didn't even know I was an art. And back then, none of the art courses. I just wanted to draw. Like, I wanted to be a cartoonist, and they didn't have those back then. A lot of teachers, and it's not that they were bad teachers, but they're made to teach art. Really, their passion is history, but they're made to teach art. So they go through a book, and On day 2 it says make paper mache.
Right.
I hate paper mache to this day because I'm not one of those guys who are good at building models. I wanted to get into architecture and I found it was building models, so I dropped out of architecture school. So I just want to draw, and I didn't see any of those avenues there, and so I quit.
Right, gotcha. They follow a very strict syllabus, which may not.
I think they've changed now. I mean, I go to Sheridan, I see people doing watercolor in the hallways, and I go, man, I would love this school, but they didn't seem to have that. Nobody offered that, and of course we're talking back in the 70s, right? So.
Right. So then you went into driving.
Driving transport trucks, yes.
Yeah, for 25.
Well, I drove for 25. I'm still in the industry, so it's been over 30 years in that industry, and I started at 17. I was this size in high school, so when you're this size in high school, a job of lifting furniture out of the house is a good job for a guy. And I just really loved the independence and the trucks. Passion's another one of my, driving is one of my other passions. So being able to drive in the trucks and see different places and not have anybody over my shoulder, I excelled.
Right. So you were driving long distances?
Long distance, Canada? Florida, Texas.
Right. So I took my hat off too, because I can't stand being in a car longer than 20 minutes.
Well, I'm getting that way now, but that's because I work from home.
Right.
It's fun. I really enjoy it, and a lot of my art is on the industry. So and I'm still very involved with the industry.
Right. So would you say that those 25 years spent in the trucking industry, were they very formative years? What did you learn from those years? I learned a ton of stuff. None of it was to do with art. I didn't take a pencil with me. I never took a sketchbook. Right. For 18 years, I didn't take a sketchbook or anything with me. Were you sketching when you came home, or you never?
I didn't even, for 18 years, I didn't even think about art.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and I'll tell you that story in a minute, but in answer to your question, what I did learn was how to deal with people, right? Because you meet so many different people. I learned time management. When you have to be in Texas by a certain amount of time, you have to think about how you're going to do it, know where you're going to stop. Right. It's called trip planning in the industry. Yeah. I learned that by doing a good job, you can get further ahead. So stuff like keeping my truck really clean and being professional, even as a truck driver. If you look at the way a lot of truck drivers are, and you'll see the difference between the professional ones and the ones that are not so professional. And you understand how that helps you get unloaded faster or get you more money because the company can rely on you. Right. And so I learned those things, which I transfer into business today.
Yeah, gotcha. So how did you come about to decide to leave the trucking industry? What was
well, I still don't think I've left it. I'm still in it. And the driving part, yeah. I was lucky enough to meet my wife Carmen, and who's been just a great supporter of the whole art. Like you said, that your husband's supporting you and your art in our previous interview. If you don't have someone like that, it's hard to go forward. So I was still driving when we met. I was driving for the company that she works for now, and I had gotten a promotion because I went back to school and learned all this computer stuff and business English and all that. I started getting promoted, and I was now the supervisor of the driver. So I was kind of off the road half the time and on the road when needed. Yeah. And then I thought that's the way I wanted to go. I was looking at a projection of being the guy for Canada, the supervisor for Canada, and I was all excited. But I was also overworking myself, and I basically was burning myself out. And I finally got to a point where I was on a stress leave, and then I just said, you know what, this isn't working. And I'd been the youngest of the team of drivers I was in charge of, which caused some conflicts on its own. And I finally just left. I just decided to quit, and I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to try this art business, and in a year, if we don't have to sell the house or any of that stuff, I still have my truck license today. I said, I will go back driving. Like, we won't be living in a ditch, but I would like to give this a try while I'm young enough. And I knew my work ethic. Yeah. And so that's how it started.
Wow. Yeah. So that is, there's a word for that. So you project yourself into the future. Look a little bit scary.
It is scary. Yeah, it was. Yet. It's still scary some days, depending on the day. But you know what? When I met Carmen, I was living on my own, of course, through the separation. And I thought all I had was this box with my art stuff. And that's how I got back into my art. So I was just doodling just to pass time. I was upset. I was grieving over my marriage that passed, that went away. And I was just drawing. And then Carmen I met, and she was supportive of it. And I got to a point where I thought I could do this. And my art was on the trucking industry. So I thought it would be great to I could illustrate for the trucking magazines.
Right.
Well, at that time, they were turning digital. So all the stuff I was doing type, pen, and ink. They didn't want that. And it took too long to produce for an illustration. So I had to change my game in a hurry. And I went back to school and learned Illustrator and Photoshop and all those things, and got digital really quickly.
Right. So how long did all those courses take? You know, sometimes I sort of say, I want to sign up for a course. Well, that's 6 months, and that takes 3 months. So
no, I went back to continuing education. So the way that they worked is, and it's Gary Allen, which I still love that school. A lot of people not sure about the school, but it's a great school, great teachers. It's in Burlington, and you can go for like 6 hours a week. And I think they do it all online now. I don't even think you have to go to school, but you had to attend classes 6 hours a week. But the classes you can do an hour today, an hour tomorrow. Everybody's learning separately. It's not like you go into a class. There's a class there for you to sit in, but everybody's learning something different. So the teacher is there just to help you personally. Right. It's like one-on-one. Wow. So because I had started the business, we didn't have any customers. Anybody knows your first 6 months, you're going, I kept looking to see if the phone was plugged in. Carmen reminds me of those days. But you know what? So I decided I'm going to put in an 8-hour day from the day I start my business. And if I have nothing to do in the business, like there's nobody to call or the phone's not ringing, I went to school for 4 hours. And now, to me, I consider that part of my day because it's training. Same as going to a seminar now. So I did that, and I was just eating up these courses. I was going like 20 hours a week to school.
Right.
When I only had to go 6. So I was finishing a course every 2 months.
Right. So you were very action oriented.
I am still that way today, which is why.
Still are that way.
Yeah.
So that's why I've gotten all these things done. Getting
That's
a podcast.
Yes. When I decide to do it, it's done.
Yeah. So this is all the work ethics that you ingrained in yourself since as a kid.
Yeah.
So it's being put to good value here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So you built the life, a fairly successful life for yourself. You're going places. You're doing so many things, and it must be that you have a set of very good habits. And habits make a good day. A good day makes a great week, and a great week, leads to a productive life.
Right.
So can you expand a little bit? I know you've alluded to it a little bit. Your morning routine, like say, what time do you wake up and what do you do when you wake up? And
all right, so I'll give
too personal.
No. I've shared this before. I'll give you a day. So I'm up at 5 or 6 every morning. Okay?
So for you to get up at 5 or 6,
I'm in bed at 10 o'clock at night. Do not call me after 10. The phone doesn't get answered.
Right.
So I start at 5, 6 every morning. I write every day. So I'm writing blog posts or articles or whatever I'm doing. I write every day. That's the first hour of the day. So basically, get up at 6. I might read for an hour. I write for an hour. And at 8 o'clock, I go to the gym. I go to the gym 8 till basically 9:30. 9:30, breakfast, shower. And at 10 o'clock is when my day actually starts. So I do not answer email roughly before 10 o'clock.
Right. So you're not checking into social media?
No, my social media, I do that later on in the day. All the important stuff for me, it's writing, is done first thing in the morning. That's my... I have to get that out first.
That is very disciplined.
Yeah, and I can't... If you start with email first thing... My wife does it. If you start with email at 6 a.m., you're already into... Other people are already controlling your day.
Yeah.
So I take control of my day, and I may lose the odd customer because of that. We've changed. That's why Carmen does a lot of the admin, but we do that on purpose because I need to get my thought patterns out.
Right.
From the morning, I try to work on whatever's the most important. So I split my day up into 50% of the day is working on my business, and 50% of the day is working in my business. So let's say I have at 10 o'clock I come into the office. My lunch is at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So 10 till 1, I will work on, maybe I'll work on podcasts, maybe I will work on a business plan, whatever I need to do to work on our business at the time.
Right.
And then in the afternoon, I take lunch 1 to 2, and from 2 until basically 5 or 6, I'll work on customer stuff, whether it's an illustration for a customer and then after that, sometimes I draw again at night. It depends on what we've got going on at night.
Right. So do you then have a winding down night routine?
5 to 7 is what we call the cocktail hour at our place. So our building faces, well, for some, not for me necessarily, but for some, I'm a beer or wine guy. But usually when Carmen comes home from work, we will relax. We have a couple hours where we just kind of relax, talk about the day, watch the news if we have to, and then our sun sets we face the way the sun sets at night. So every night we see a beautiful sunset.
Wow.
That's kind of been our routine. It's our routine in Barbados, and it's our routine here.
Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
we tried. You know, there's meetings and stuff. It's not every night, but we try to kind of make that. So I try to plan my day so when she's getting home, I'm pretty well just wrapping up a project. She might have half an hour.
Right. So that segues into your bedtime and.
Yeah, and then 10 o'clock I'm in bed, and sometimes she stays up. I need 8 hours sleep. I know I need that now.
Right.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I'm in bed at 10 and I'm up again at 6, and this is our routine. And it pretty well is 6-7 days a week. Sundays I try not to do too much if I don't have to, but a lot of my event stuff is on weekends.
Right.
So I'm at a wedding almost every weekend.
Yeah.
You know, the other day we had 2 events on the same day, so
Whoa.
it's a busy day sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I find that the challenge is wrapping your day up. You know, if I'm painting, I think, let me change that, and I want to see what happens when I change that. And it's like 11:30, 12.
Oh, wow.
So it's, so it is a good way to.
Well, once you know your workflow, you know how long it takes. Like, if it takes me 4 hours to do a painting, I don't plan to get that whole thing done in 4 hours. I don't know, you're doing fine art. Because I do illustration, there's a lot of approval points along the way. So I have to do a sketch for a client, send for approval. I do the drawing, send for approval. I do the color, send for approval.
Right.
So it's not like I can finish that painting in one day anyway. So I will plan to do the sketch on Monday, and I know I'm not going to be doing the drawing till Wednesday. Or maybe I'll even, if it's a 3-week project, I might not even start the next stage until the next week.
Right.
So I schedule my whole week out on Monday morning. I schedule my whole week out, whatever commissions I have and whatever I have to do. And once I fill that week, it's basically done until next week. So if you want a meeting on Friday, unless it's a really light day, or you probably won't get hold of me until the next week. That's the way I schedule my week.
Well, fine art is a little bit different. You have to self-direct yourself.
Yeah.
So, okay, now you are a great speaker, Bruce. I see you're very natural. You project your voice.
I like people.
And you like people. Okay.
Yeah.
But did you tell us really the secrets of that? Did you sort of go for training? Did you go to Toastmasters? Did you attend speakers?
I'm part of CAPS, which is the Canadian Association for Professional Speakers. So I just joined them this year, and they're more the business end. They don't actually teach you how to speak. They're more on how to build a speaking business. So I'm a member of that, but that's not how I started.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started with classes. So back in 2005, I was asked by our friend Mary to do a class. Actually, she wasn't in charge of the classes back then. Somebody else was doing the class. And they said, would you do a pen and ink workshop? And I said, what am I going to tell them? They said, well, just tell them your process. And once I did that workshop, I thought, wow, I really enjoyed that. And they seemed to want more. And once I started doing classes, like in 2007 when I took on all the classes when I was starting, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then I started kind of watching what other speakers do. I bought every book on how to speak. So how do you set up your speaking and all of that? And really it comes down to just you being, and if you're trying to add value to somebody's life, it makes it easier because it's not about you really.
Right.
But I still get nervous like everybody else.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Well, I heard about Frank Sinatra, how great a star he was, and yet before every performance, he would actually go to the washroom and throw up.
Yeah, I haven't done that, because that doesn't seem to be helpful to me. But but I get nervous. But you know what, I'm passionate about whatever I'm talking about. Like I wouldn't take on a presentation on healthcare. Like I just had someone ask me about doing presentations for healthcare, and I said I know nothing about healthcare. I'm not a good fit, so I gave them the name of another speaker. But if they had said we want to know about the trucking industry or about art, well, I'm your guy, right? So that's.
So the tip is to talk about something that you're good at.
Talk about something you're good at, and stuff like the podcast helps because I'm talking all the time,
right? And
it's the same. You have to put the content together the same way. Mm-hmm. So it's a way of me kind of practicing, even if there's no presentations to do. You're always doing a presentation.
Yes. So okay. So Bruce, you're doing a lot of stuff. How are we doing for time here?
I don't know. Anybody still there? Oh, hey, Carmen. Carmen's on. So we have some people on. So no, go ahead. We got a few more minutes.
Okay, so so Bruce, you're not you come across as being an extrovert. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm an omnivert. Like I'm happy to be by myself, but when I go out,
Okay, so maybe I'm that. maybe I'm an omnivert too, because I'm the same. And Carmen will attest to this, that I like people, but I also don't like people. Like I'm not good in crowds.
Don't take it personally.
No, she knows. No, if we go see something like the Eiffel Tower, and there's a 3-hour lineup, to me, I'd rather just bypass.
Yeah.
You know? But I have no problem being in the center of a Chamber of Commerce room and talk. So it depends on the situation. I have a passion for music, and I look at these giant concerts, and we go to the Sound of Music, in Burlington, and I get that my chair is far away from people. I don't like when they encroach on our. But I enjoy going to the concert, and so. I think I'm a bit of both. I love people around, but I also like my quiet time. So
to recharge and all that, right? Yeah. Because I think you try to be the best you can be when you're with people, and that does drain your energy.
Well, I found that out doing the caricature events, because I would come home and not want to talk, and my wife would say, "You talk all day," and that's why I didn't realize how draining it was to draw. Study somebody, draw them, talk to them while you're drawing, and do it all within 3 minutes. Oh. And you're doing that 15, 20 people per hour. So you're a 4-hour gig. By the end of a 4-hour gig, I can't. So when I get home from an event, I just like to have a glass of wine. And I love when it's like at midnight and it's quiet, everybody else has gone to bed, and I just sit there and just chill out. And it takes me some time to wind down. And I just like that, But when I'm at the event, I know that that's part of the entertainment value I'm supposed to bring. And at the same time, I have fun with the people. I pretend like I'm a guest, and I just have as much fun as they do. But I'm there to draw. And so it's kind of a trick. It's a balance technique. For sure.
Absolutely. I just lost my train of thought.
No, sorry, but I have a way of doing that too.
So, that is tiring, isn't it? Because you're talking and you're trying to get your drawing together. I can imagine just all your, the neurons just firing.
And you have to actually do the pre-drawing. Like, you can't do the drawing in pencil. So I actually, I have a system to doing mine, but when I'm starting somebody, I'm already looking to see how I'm going to exaggerate them or what I'm going to do. But I can't draw that out on the paper first. I start with marker, and that's it. When you start with the nose, that's all you see. And so you're actually doing the pre-drawing in your head. So there's another element. Like, people think artists are just like, but boy, the talent of the caricature artists that I know to do what they do, and I'm not even the best at that. There's guys way better than me at this.
Well, you're pretty good.
Well, I'm good, but like I said, I know a lot of people who are super talented. And to what you can do in 5 minutes on an empty piece of paper is just staggering, and it blows the mind of most people. And so, to my caricature artist friends, kudos. You guys are a lot smarter and better, and
Do they talk though?
Some of them do talk very well, and some of them don't. And that's part of where some of them are successful in their business and some aren't, because it is entertainment. So if you don't talk, and this is where I excel at some of my events, where others wouldn't. Nothing to do with the art or their talent. It's just about their personality.
Right, and how are you making the people feel?
Yeah, and that's a big thing when you're doing. I specialize in weddings and corporate events. It's a big thing when you do it that way. Right. They expect you to do that.
Yes. Well, yeah.
If you go and you don't say anything, you don't get called back. So,
this is all part of entertainment.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, you have an upcoming webinar that's going to be on next week.
Well, for those of you on Facebook Live, yes, it's going to be on Monday, July 17th. It's 4 to 5. It's a free webinar on time management, what we were talking about. If you're listening to this if you're listening to this on the podcast, you've already missed it because it's probably coming out after that. But so I have a webinar. I've just started with webinars. I've been on webinars before, but holding your own is a bit of a challenge, figuring out the software and stuff. But
it's always the first time, isn't it?
Yeah, the last time I didn't do it well, but hopefully those people will show back up again. But I've got a lot of entrepreneur friends that I work with, and you know what? This is what. If I have that knowledge and I can help them, then I'll do it.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. And you also have an upcoming TV show.
Yes. Well, hopefully you're going to be part of that. We'll talk about that off there. But it's called Inspiring Youth. So it's on, I think most people know it. And there'll be an update coming out tomorrow for the Facebook people here. But it's called Inspiring Youth. And we're going to showcase youth in the community that are doing good things. They don't have to be starting their own business or anything. But there's people out there that are passionate about the environment. There's students that are getting into their first job and they're excelling, and why are they excelling it, and others say they can't get a job. There's ones who want to be artists and they're doing great art in school, but they have no idea of where this would take them. And the reason that show is really important to me, and it was offered to me, I didn't plan on doing this. That wasn't one of the projects planned for this year. I kind of fell into this at the end, and it's kind of that thing that you either take the opportunity or you lose it, so I've taken it.
Yeah.
So it's added a bit more work than I was planning on having this year. But
how exciting, though.
yes, but like I was saying, coming out of school, I didn't know you could go to art school. I didn't know that you could be an actual cartoonist. Nobody showed me that in school. Nobody said, here's one of the opportunities you can have. You can become a cartoonist if you do this. Mm-hmm. That was not even one of the options. It was either be an architect if you want to draw, or, so I felt that, I wonder how many other youth like myself that they've lost over the years that are now the statistic, they've dropped out of school, they've maybe gone to crime or whatever, when all they wanted to do was create some kind of art. I had a kid in one of my classes, he did graffiti. Awesome graffiti. He was the best. And I said, I was doing a comic book at the time, and I said, I would love to have you come and do graffiti, the backgrounds of that comic. He didn't show up again after that class. Maybe I scared him, but there was an opportunity there.
Right.
And it didn't matter that he was doing graffiti. The way I do my art classes, I leave it wide open. If you want to do graffiti and we're supposed to be doing head and shoulders, if you're drawing, do graffiti. If that's what's going to keep you drawing, do graffiti. I don't know that it needs to be on somebody's building or property. That's where I find graffiti goes off. But if you put it on a canvas, I love it. Yeah. There's places down Toronto where it's Queens. So there's a lot of youth that we've lost because they didn't see a direction. The whole idea of this show is to take youth which are doing something and pair them up with somebody who's kind of already gone down that road, maybe a fine artist like yourself, where they can say, oh, there is a way to do fine art, and use my... Because I can tell you, most of their parents are just saying, get a job. When...
Doctor, lawyer...
Well, I sat next to a kid in one of our events, and he was struggling. He goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, what do you like to do? He goes, I like boating. I go, what do you do in boating? He says, well, I work for a sailboat place every weekend. But he didn't know where to go get a job. I said, well, wouldn't you go to the sailboat place and say, are you hiring? Like, can I wash the boats? Can I sell the boats? Whatever you do at a sailboat place.
Or work for free.
He didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Because he went there on weekends just to kind of look at the boats. He didn't think you could actually get a job there and do. Yeah. And if that's what he's passionate about, then, get down there. Like, feel free to take that opportunity and say, ask the guy. He might say he doesn't have any positions, but you can still say, I have an interest, maybe later.
Yeah. Right? For sure. So that's great. So, I think it's a wonderful thing.
So the whole show is going to be for that. Hopefully help the youth of our community.
Yeah,
sure. It's a community
for sure. Yes. But my question was, I was curious about how, I think you were doing talks on social media marketing and whatnot. Yep. So how did you fall into the youth aspect of things? So you're invited to do this last talk.
So the way the talk worked, this is a typical networking connections. Yeah. This is how it worked. My daughter wanted to upgrade her computer skills. So I said, why not go to the school that I went to? Because they have this flexible schedule.
Name that school again?
Gary Allen of Burlington. So if you're hearing chimes, that's just her clock in the background. But so I took her to this school. The people at the school remembered me when I went there. They said, you'd be great for this youth event coming up. Somebody made a call to the youth event. They called me and said, would you be a keynote speaker? I invited an entrepreneur friend of mine to that event because they were looking for other mentors. And he went and introduced me to this guy who sat next to me at the event, who I didn't know, who was the Kojiko producer who offered me the show. That's how this went, in this. And so in answer to your questions, I do talk a lot about content creation, social media, and the trucking industry. But I also have a couple talks for youth. I have one that life is a graphic novel. So it's to show them that life is, wherever you are right now, is just one piece of the puzzle. Right. And that you have no idea where life is going to go, which is basically my path. I've got a path that goes like this. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the talks. I have another one called Self-Talk, which are more for the youth too, of, because that's something I've always struggled with, never being good enough or comparing myself to these people with all these degrees. But half of them, with all the degrees, might be very educated in what they do, but they can't even run a business, And I found that that's what I like about business, because if you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to educate yourself, you can be successful. So that's where the show came from.
Right. So when you say you've got these 2 talks, are you saying that people can invite you to go and present these talks at whatever organization?
Yeah, I have
or do you have them online?
Yeah, they're online. You can go to bruceoutridge.com and find all that out. But I've got about 6 talks that are, and I can change titles or change the focus. But there's basically 3 on business and 3 on
right,
employee
which you can
workshop.
purchase online too.
Well, they don't really purchase it. They hire me to come out and talk to them.
Right.
And ask me to come out and
Okay,
talk.
gotcha. And you've got a book, which I got a free copy of.
Oh
Thank you so
yes,
much.
yes,
It's
and that's available free now too. So that one is that's called How to Start an Artistic Business: 12 Easy Steps, and it's basically a workbook for someone starting an art business.
Right.
So that one was done back in 2011. It's like that was my first book. So now we were going to refresh it, and you probably know as an artist, there's nothing worse than rehashing your content and putting it out again. Like I like to make something new.
Fresh.
Like I hate when people just kind of go and say, oh, well, let's just copy and do that. No, let's think up something new and be a little creative. So instead of putting it out again, I think it is valuable for people. It doesn't matter what your business, it will work for any business. So now it's just, they can just sign up online for it for free and get it as a PDF. I'm no longer printing it, but they can get it electronically.
Right. Oh, wow.
Instead of PDF.
That's
And they
great.
can print it out, whatever they want. And so that's helpful. And I've got other books that I'm working with.
It's great that it's in easy steps because when it gets too complicated, you don't know what the next action step is.
Yeah.
So you've kind of, laid it out for
Well,
us.
and that's how you should build a business. In the trucking industry, I have another book similar for them as well on how to buy a truck if they want to. And for most of them would say, well, okay, so our first step is to go out and buy the truck. No, your first step is to do these behind the scenes things of finding an accountant and setting yourself up. And the same thing for artists. If I talk to an artist, what are you going to do to start your business? A lot of them will say, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get it at a show. That's not the first thing you should do. You got to figure out, is that the show for you? What kind of art do you do? How are you going to sell your art? I'm working with a young artist right now, and he started his business a year ago, and it hasn't been going anywhere. And so in one meeting, I've said, okay, here's the things you need to clean up, and now we're meeting again. Like there's a certain steps to do this. So this book is set up so if someone's part-time, they don't need to incorporate themselves. Don't go get incorporated if you're part-time. What should you be doing if you're part-time? Well, I started my business 3 years part-time before I went full-time. So I show people how I did it part-time, which was family, friends, neighbors, small
Meanwhile,
shows.
working the trucking?
Yeah, I'm still working. And then in 2006, I took it full-time. So.
Right. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about this young person? Like, are you mentoring?
Yeah. Well, I'm consulting for him. He's in the east end of Toronto, so he's way out in Markham
Is that where
area.
you're going to go after?
That's where I'm leaving here. Yeah, and he's.
So he found you online?
He found me online. He signed up for all my stuff.
Wow.
He's listened to everything, and he still feels he needs that help. So we're helping him, and already put him in contacts. He's starting his first show coming up in August.
How
I put
old
him.
is
I think he's
young?
like 19, 20. He's just.
Isn't that great that at age 19 he's reaching out for professional
Well, he
help?
wants to be in animation, and he thought animation is a long-term play. You don't make money tomorrow in animation. You have to create animation, be recognized. You have to connect with studios and all that. It's not a play that starts tomorrow. So he wants to start caricatures. He likes doing caricatures, but he didn't know where to start, and so he was trying to start the way all of us start. Listen to some big guru, maybe he's considered that, and go, okay, I'm going to do all of these things, and then he's finding it's not working because it's too much. Same thing with my podcast. When I started my first podcast, the one for the trucking industry, I just told you I had to do one every day. I was producing podcasts every day, 20 podcasts a month I was putting out, with the exception of weekends. And it was it got too overwhelming, and I actually stopped it. And when I went to a once a week, and I said, okay, I'm going to stop listening to all the big guys. I'm going to do what's comfortable for me.
Right.
And when I started doing
Sustainable
that,
then.
things started working, And so I learned from all my mistakes. All these are mistakes I've made, and I'm just trying to save you guys a little bit of time.
Right. Yeah. That's giving us the shortcuts. Thank you. So, so Bruce, just sort of winding up, would you like to give us a couple of tips?
You put me on the spot. See, she didn't send me the questions ahead of time, so I don't know that what I was supposed to ask. So tips on...
What would you say is one or two traits that you have that has been, that has given you the success that you have
Okay.
I think I know the answer. I can see it, but
yeah.
verbalize it for us.
Probably the biggest one is the work ethic.
Yeah.
Work ethic, you've got to be willing to, I'm always thinking, and sometimes it's a bad thing, but I'm always thinking about how can I improve the business? Right. How can I come up with new products? How can I be better service? So improving your business and being willing to get out there and work at it. It's not necessarily 9 to 5, even though it sounds like I have my schedule set that way.
Yeah.
It's not. There's many nights, weekends where I'm working on the business. Yeah. But learning about, if you are an artist, you may think you may work on your art. You should be working on your website. I'm not saying you should be working on your website, but you should. You're going to have to do stuff with your website now. So take a website course. If you're an artist and you're not really good at websites, you can't afford to have someone update that for you forever.
Oh no.
Like the first time I did mine, the girl did the pictures the opposite way, and it actually would not load. So I've learned how to do websites just for myself, and then over the years you get customers that ask you. So that's one thing that we should do, and probably the other part is have the vision. So when we started the business, I specifically wanted our business to be where we can do it from anywhere, because we knew that traveling is part of our future, and we go to the Caribbean for the winter time. So
and you're still doing the podcast.
Right.
So you bring this bag.
No, I actually do them all ahead of time before I go, and I don't because you can schedule it. That's a whole other.
Sure.
So you can schedule them. I work off an iPad now because I could do most of my work from there. So just keeping the business to where I've turned down a lot of job offers because they would expect me to be there every day, and I do not want that anymore.
Right.
I've built the business a certain way. But it's not easy to do that. But you have to have that vision. And every time, and I'm not saying I don't have low days. I've had tons of low days over the years. My wife can attest to that. But every time I think, you know what, this isn't working, I'm going to go get a job. And then you sell a piece for like $400 and you realize I would have to go to work all week for that. And I did that in, let's say, 6 hours or whatever it takes you to do that. And you go, why don't I just get some more customers like that? And so having that vision and going, here's where we want to go. It doesn't happen as fast. I wish it happened 10 years ago. It's still trying to happen. We're still working on it. I'm not at my goal.
Sure.
My goal keeps changing.
Well, the goalpost keeps moving.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not even near my goals. But every time you do a project, whether it's a book and it's not even the best book or whatever, it teaches you something.
Yes, it's a stepping stone to your next book.
And it's something that but it's something you can use in your business. Yeah. I can now give this away as a marketing tool or whatever I want to do with it.
Right.
If I hadn't created a book, I couldn't do that. So everything, I learned to do websites for myself. I learned podcasts because I wanted to offer training. I learned video because I need to do video. Like everything I learned, I'm learning it for myself. You guys are the byproducts because you get it after but I've been learning it for myself to improve our business. And so having the vision and having the work ethic, I think are the two biggest tips that I could offer.
Yeah. So that's a mouthful.
Yeah, it always is with me. So everybody's exhausted online, I'm sure.
But thank you so much for all of that. I can go on and on.
I think they're already probably tired of us.
Yes, but I can go on and on. So maybe we can do another.
Maybe we'll go. That would be. Maybe you need to be a co-host. I need to get you on as a co-producer or co-host of the.
Happy to do that.
Well, thank you very much for interviewing me and having me on your portion of the show. I think this is cool, right? So we'll do this again sometime.
Thank you for letting me do that, Bruce.
Yes, thank you.
I got all those questions answered. We'll list them.
Good.
So,
Good.
great.
Well, we will.